were talking about like tips in the beginning of, we should have like a routine, and I really like that idea. And I was curious, like, if you were willing to share, as a PhD candidate, or, you just defended your thesis, what does your schedule look like? Because my husband is in his first year of his PhD program, and it's been really, really exhausting. And so if you're doing an internship on top of that, I was just curious for like our viewers who are in school or are working online or doing some type of internship, like what is an example of how your routine looks like, just as like a point of reference, because it's different than mine and it's different than FedEx. And I think a lot of our viewers would resonate with that.
I like that. So I can answer that question. I'd also be interested in what you two's routines look like right now. And we could kind of play off how to add parts of your routine that you've lost due to this pandemic, and things we can add back in. So in terms of my routine, I try to wake up every day around between 7:30 and 8 a.m. And I go on a walk about a mile with my husband. We just walk around the neighborhood without our phones, without anything, just kind of looking at nature. Yeah. I live in a rather manicured neighborhood, so the nature looks the same, but we look at it every day nonetheless. We comment on it. We see passerbyers, we wave at them. And, the conversation's not structured or even that interesting. It's just time away and moving, and it's a start to our day. Yeah. Got to get back home by the latest 8:30, in which case I make my breakfast and I listen to The Daily, which is a New York Times podcast that I love. Mm-hmm. And their episodes are about 30 minutes. So I make my breakfast, I make my coffee, I listen to the podcast, and then I'm at my computer by 9 a.m. to like start with my first client. And that's kind of my morning. And that has felt really nice because I used to have an hour and a half commute to work. No, an hour and 20-minute commute to work every day, which meant that I used to listen to Charlemagne the God every morning, just talking wildness, Yeah. Just going. I used to look forward to his donkeys of the day. And then I would do my New York Times listening. And I missed that because there was something about the drive that like got me ready for work. So I replaced the drive with this walk. Mm-hmm. Okay. Right? And there's no shame in the walk. I'm not trying to burn calories. I'm not trying to like get my heart rate up. I am simply moving my body and having this experience of disconnecting from my bed to my job. Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah. And I'd say in the evening, because I still work 9 to 5, I have a workout class that's live, Effect Fitness in Atlanta. Yeah, live. I do, because they're consistent, and I know every day at 5:30 p.m. they go live, and that's part of my structure too. I can't skip it. I can't postpone it. I can't decide it's not important because it's happening at 5:30 p.m. So I get out of work, I change my clothes, I go into the garage and I work out. After that,
I shower, after work to like wind down.
Exactly.
That's great.
But I'd be interested in like kind of what are you guys' routines, or what do you feel like is missing that you used to have that you wish you still had?
For me, because like there's, for my job, like it's always on, like the machine it feels like it's never off. And so like I could wake up and check emails from my bed, and I think that's a bad habit that I've started doing, just to kind of get a feel for how my day is. And so I'll check my email, just kind of see what's going on, and then depending on how urgent some of the emails are, it will depend on like what time I get up. But for sure, I'm on the computer by like 9 o'clock. So I might get up like at 6:30 and see something and be like, wait, what? And then I'm doing emails from the bed, and then eventually I have to go and get into my work mode in time for like a meeting that starts at 9. So it's very chaotic from the morning. Something I'm really struggling with is the lunchtime break. When I was in the office, and I had recently, right before quarantine, I had recently transitioned to working from home. Prior to that, I had always worked at the office. And so I was still trying to get like my rhythm, because some days I would go into the office and some days I wouldn't. And then some of my peers are on West Coast time, and some of them are here in Atlanta, and some of them are in the Midwest. So I struggled really with like that lunch hour. In the office, I could block it off on my calendar. Me and my coworkers would go downstairs and we would just talk trash, right? Like, because we had really good relationships, and we would go snack or whatever, right? We could walk around. 30 minutes to an hour, come back and I feel really refreshed. Now that's very difficult for me to do because it's like where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the kitchen and the break doesn't feel as clean because everything is kind of like the whole house is like my workspace now, right? Doing work in the bed. And now that I hear yours, I'm like, okay, I need like very clear delineated separation, which is like really like very common sense now that I hear you say it. But for me, it was something I hadn't thought about. I was just trying to keep up with the go. And then I don't have a very clean cutoff for when I stop working, depending on, you know, what's happening in the work environment. Some days I'm still on my computer at 7:30. Some days I'm finished like at 3:30 and it's just like I have extra time. And I don't have like a very good structure of, okay, 5 o'clock or whatever that time is going to be, I'm going to get off the computer and I'm done. It really just depends on what's going on. And so that's kind of how it's been. And even now, like sometimes over the weekend, I'm working still. Sometimes it's really, really light. It's just very, very inconsistent. I'm still struggling with that.
It sounds like you're experiencing what I think many people are, which is the boundaries between work life and home life have completely become enmeshed.
Totally.
So that must be exhausting because you're almost always working.
Look, Flutter was like, hey, can we work on this? I was like, I'm tired. She's like, poor thing. And it's not her fault. And I realized like I need to do better with time management, but it's very difficult because it doesn't feel like there's clean separation. Like I said, the whole house feels like it's work. My phone feels like it's work, and it's social media, and it's Rooted Black Girls, and it's like all these things at the same time. And then I have like my own social media thing that I do. So I'm exhausted. So yeah, any tips you have, I'm all ears.
Yeah, I'd say step one, a strong disconnection between work and home. And the best way to do that is to designate where you work and where you don't.
Yeah.
So when I first started working from home, I was like, oh, I'm going to see like my meetings and clients, like I'm going to sit in my bed because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
No. After 2 weeks, I was like, this was a bad call. Because then I felt like everywhere I was working. Similar to what you're saying.
Yeah.
I set up a desk in my room and I work at my computer. When I'm at my desk, I'm working. When I'm not at my desk, I'm not working.
Okay.
Right? And I take my lunch in the kitchen.
Okay. Away from your computer.
Away from my computer. When I'm at my desk, I'm at work. And I block off on my schedule from 12 to 1, I have lunch. At 11:59,
You're logging back in.
I walk out and I go to the kitchen and I have lunch and I have my lunch there.
Yeah.
And if I need to, I walk around the living room. Sometimes I step outside and just feel the sun. That vitamin D, right? So like just feel the sun.
Yeah.
I go back in and I spend the rest of my lunch in the kitchen. And if I want to relax, I might lay on my bed. And then, when my lunch hour is done, I then go back to my desk. And I think that if you were to find a place in your home that you're like, this is where I do work. It can be the kitchen table, it can be the living room, a corner of your bedroom, but it needs to be that's where you work, which means that when you wake up, that's where you answer your emails too.
Yeah.
Your phone is easy, but then it bleeds into the peace that you get when you're in your bed.
Yeah.
I imagine that when you get back in your bed at night, you don't feel peace.
No, it's like I'm like, okay, let me check, make sure I'm still plugged in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And I think I do need to make time to go outside. Yesterday was the first time I had gone further than the mailbox in like 4 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, the trees they're full now. Cause it's, the seasons has fully changed at this point. And I was just like, outside. So I think there's a couple of things that I'm going to borrow from your routine. But I didn't realize how much I missed just the sun, to your point, until I had went outside and I was outside doing grocery shopping for Ramadan and stuff. And I was like, okay, I need to reevaluate. This is not working.
So I think 2 main things: step outside and experience some sun on your face. It will also, vitamin D, is like it's happiness.
Yeah.
You will feel better.
Yeah.
So I might recommend stepping outside for at least a minute before you start your work day.
Yeah.
And stepping out at lunch at minimum. But the biggest thing for you, I think, will be separating work, and don't take work in your bed.
Yeah.
Your bed will no longer signify peace and sleep and relaxation for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bed should only be for rest and recreational activities.
Right.
Outside of that, that's it. And the thing about email on our phones is like, we feel like we need to answer.
Yeah.
We don't. You can wake up, you can, break your fast early in the morning, like get something to eat, do what feels like you need to, and then go to your computer.
Yeah.
And that's where you work. That's it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That was helpful.
I'm happy.
I'm like, I don't even want to start.
No, you have to go. You have to go.
Sarah?
Day is a mess. Because being a healthcare worker and I'm not able to go in as often, what my work has done is made it so we cover each other, and we only have one person in each clinic. And so I'll cover clinics maybe once or twice a week, and that's it. And I actually really enjoy that time. And my chief of my department, she called me and she's like, hey, I'm having some cross like flu symptoms, or not flu symptoms, but allergy symptoms that could be related to COVID. I'm going to get a test. Can you cover my shift tomorrow? I was like, yes. So that's what happened last week. But because when I am not at work, I'm not working. The only thing that I can do is see patients. And the way that my day usually is okay, I drive to work 15, 20 minutes, listen to those podcasts as I'm getting ready, drink my coffee. And before, my job would be, I was a controller of my own schedule. So my first patient's at 7:30. I've made it as early as possible. And then I work so hard all day where I barely drank any water or even used the restroom so I could get out around 3. I had no boundaries at work. I was like, let's go, And so now I'm like, oh, wow, I have so much time. So sometimes I go to bed at 11, like my usual time. And then others I go to bed at like 3 or 4. I'm watching more television. I'm reading more books. I have made the decision to kind of change my living room space where I've made like a reading nook, and then and then my couch is like television. And I realized since I've separated those two spaces, I'm not watching television as much. And one day I had to tell myself, like, there's nothing good to watch. Turn the TV off. Turn it off right now. So I have a lack of boundaries because I have a lack of work. And so I'm grateful for the time because I haven't had this, and I told Afnan maybe a few weeks ago, I haven't had this much free time since I was 15 years old. I was like, maybe summer breaks possibly could be related to this, but I've been trying to fill my day up with maybe a walk here and there, but nothing structured. It's just like, feel like it. It's a flower child. Like, I guess, like, okay, let's do this. So yeah, I've been struggling and not struggling at the same time, I feel like.
I mean, it sounds like you feel really understimulated, and therefore you can't provide yourself the structure you need in order to make your time feel engaging to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I take every call. And that's why I have a lot of like Zoom fatigue. I'm going to name it Zoom fatigue. I'm like, and I feel like I'm grateful as someone who's social distancing by themselves. I'm grateful for people calling me. I was like, yay, I have friends. But then at some point I'm like, wow, I'm tired. Like, I can't take these calls anymore, So yes, I'm not as stimulated as I usually am.
Well, I think you're also someone that would benefit from like cap ends to your schedule first. Bedtime.
Oh, I'm terrible at that.
Yeah, you need to go to bed at the same time every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a big proponent of this in my like outside of COVID. I'm like, I sleep when I sleep. Yeah. But COVID, to be honest, I was going to bed anywhere between midnight and 1 a.m. because I was like, I can still get 7 hours of sleep because I don't have a commute. But what that meant was that I was just overstimulating my mind really late into the evening, which then impacted my ability to sleep well. And although I had 7 hours of sleep, I never quite felt rested in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
You are saying a thing right there, sister. Okay.
I'm still exhausted. And I'm like, I need to take a nap. I'm tired. I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning and I could not go back to sleep.
So you need a bedtime and you need a digital
time. Just said you need a bedtime, sis.
I know. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. So, shout out to the Nap Ministry. They're another page that I follow that talk about the importance of rest. But you need to set a bedtime and go to it every night. But more importantly, set a digital detox about an hour before your bedtime. So no TV, no phone. And this is hard because someone's texting you and you're interested. An article just came out.
Yeah.
Don't do it. just like disconnect, read. I mean, stare at the ceiling if you want, but like, I know that sounds weird, but sometimes when you just stare, you can kind of actually like sit with yourself. Like,
Yeah.
how do I feel right now?
Yeah.
Am I okay? Am I not okay? What do I need?
Yeah.
You know, like that's when you can really do that deep check-in with yourself. And I found that doing it before bed helps prevent tomorrow's anxiety from impeding tonight's sleep.
Yep.
All right. So I think that will be a big game changer for you if you can set your bedtime and a digital detox. And in terms of your day, you might benefit from picking up a second hobby and structuring how you do it.
Yeah.
And I think for you particularly, Farah, given that I know you, I'd say a difficult hobby.
Yeah.
Because I think if it's something that you can figure out quickly,
Yeah.
you will find yourself understimulated in a week.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend something that you find challenging.
I don't know.
To it. There was like, everything's so easy. I don't know what you mean. I'm so gifted and talented.
Maybe.
Well,
That's all great and amazing advice. And I think we have to add some structure to our days so that we can, feel well rested and productive where we need to be and restful where in other areas. So
Wait,
now,
one more thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, one more thing. And don't feel the pressure to be productive.
No.
I use stimulated versus not stimulated because sometimes when we're understimulated, we can feel bored and have like really low and depressed feelings and irritability. So we need some stimulation because we're beings, but you do not need to be productive. Like that is not a necessity.
Yeah.
You can come out of this having produced literally nothing, and that's okay.
Survived. Check.
Yeah,
That's it, survived. But you don't need to be productive. Just engage in some stimulation so that you can keep yourself fresh and attuned, but you don't need to be productive.